Hi everyone and welcome for the video of the new moon of April 30th. So April 30, 2022. This is actually my first video for this astrology channel. I'm a French Canadian. I'm an astrologer since quite a while and I'm doing astrology video for new moon, full moon. I also have a full course on astrology, but I do that usually mainly in French. So my accent, of course, it's obvious. It's coming from French Canada. And I had a lot of requests. Could you do it in English? I have a lot of friends that would be interested in your specific view of astrology. And please do it in English, because my friends speak only English, or sometimes for people it's their family and so on. So I said, well, sure, I can manage doing it in English. So let's get going on that new moon of April 30th, 2022. It is an important one. Basically, we have some really important conjunctions, as you can see on the chart. Venus just did pick up on the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. And so we have that super conjunction, Neptune, Jupiter, and Venus in Pisces. We also have another conjunction that is in Taurus, the new moon itself, always composed of the sun and moon, with Uranus. And that's really important as well. And both conjunctions are making sextiles. So that new moon is all about sextiles. There's many of them. Let's have a look at the Pisces conjunction, Jupiter, Neptune, and Venus. There's a sextile in Capricorn with Pluto, and there's also another sextile on the other side in Taurus. Well, it's not really Taurus because Mercury actually just entered the sign of Gemini. So the sextile is with Mercury in Gemini at 0 degrees. So it's barely in Gemini. Usually in Taurus is sextile with Pisces, but since the conjunction is pretty much at the end of the sign of Pisces, well, then the sextile extends to Mercury in Gemini. So there are those sextiles, and then for the other conjunction, Sun, Moon, and Uranus in Taurus, there's a sextile with Mars in Pisces. You see that all those sextiles are actually including all the planets except for Saturn. And for Saturn, it's different. The work of Saturn is more like finishing the work that has been started with the full moon that happened just around Easter this year. And so it's another story. It's the first video in English. If you follow me for a while, you'll find that there's a thread. There's a work that keeps going from one new moon to the next full moon to the next new moon, etc., etc. And you'll find out that, there's a thread and the work keeps going, increasing. It's growing all the time. There's kind of a strategy of the stars to teach us some things. And if you keep following and listening to the videos, you'll see the progression of things. So for the moment, you don't have the previous videos to go have a look and check, oh, what was Saturn doing again in the last full moon? Well, you don't have that, no problem. That will build up with time. It's impossible to start telling the whole story that happened before in one video. There were tons of videos. I do that since many years in French. So for people that follow me in French, they're used to those references I make with the previous new moon and full moon. So there's a real interest on keeping up and listening video after video because you see that thread. And this is really interesting with the approach I have with the new moon and full moon, to see the thread, because you start understanding the point of view of the stars, actually, of the astrology. What work is it doing with humanity? So that's important, just wanted to mention. So Saturn is still working with his squares, with the nodes, the moon nodes axis. So it's still working there. That's another story. We won't get into that today. Let's stick to our sextiles. So all planets are making those sextiles, and there's always in those sextiles at least one planet, often many because of the conjunction in Pisces. There are always planets in Pisces making those sextiles. So basically, it's a continuity of that conjunction Jupiter-Neptune in Pisces. Venus is just added to that conjunction, and then Mars also entered Pisces, and all those planets are making all those sextiles. Sextiles are 60-degree aspect, so 2 signs difference. So that's why it's a sign in what it's a water sign, Pisces, and it does usually its sextiles with earth signs, so with Capricorn, Pluto, and in Taurus it's the super conjunction Moon, Sun, and Uranus. And then we have Mercury and Gemini. That's kind of an exception. So we see the configuration is all about that. There's of course a trine between Pluto and Capricorn and Mercury and Gemini, and that completes that blue triangle that you see, including the sextiles. So I won't repeat myself anymore to present a little bit the aspects, but what is important to get from this is that the main thing in that new moon are actually the sextiles themselves with the conjunctions that are involved in those sextiles. And it's always about developing that energy in Pisces. So we stick again to that conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune as we're doing in previous videos, of course only in French, since it's the first one in English. Okay, so you get the picture a little bit theoretically. Now let's give an interpretation to that, because that's what is the most interesting, right? Now we know theoretically what is important in that new moon, but how can one interpret that? So to interpret it, it's very plain and simple. Sextiles, very harmonious, very soft, and the presence of Venus on Jupiter, and that is really precise. If you look at the degree and even the minutes of that conjunction, it's super precise. So the presence of Venus is really soft. It's like, yes, we can love that energy of Jupiter and Neptune. And Jupiter and Neptune, what do they do in Pisces? That great conjunction? They tell us, yes, there's a great teaching. There's a great spiritual path that we can embrace. It's kind of saying, yes, the great spiritual masters of our humanity do exist, and they gave plenty. And we don't have to look only at one tradition or one religion or whatever. They're there. They gave so much. And they keep being there, and they keep giving that spiritual path for humanity to walk on. That conjunction is talking about that. So this is not that popular nowadays, right? When we think about, oh, what do people think about usually in their day, in their daily life? Not very much about that teaching of the spiritual masters, right? But that conjunction is now underlining, saying, yes, that exists and that is possible. And Venus adding up to that conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune that started weeks ago, well, now says, and we have to love it. Not only about thinking about it, not only about trying to understand all the little details of a spiritual teaching and be a know-it-all about a certain teaching. And yes, I always have the answer because I studied everything. I remember every sentence of, I don't know, the Bible or the Quran or whatever sacred scriptures we are sensitive to. You know, people that, oh yes, I remember every single phrase of it. And I remember the wording, the exact wording, and I even remember the page of it. I don't know. We think like this very often. But now it's different. We have to love this teaching because it's Venus that come and in conjunction with that Jupiter and Neptune conjunction. It's the only we call personal planets. It's the only personal planet. The personal planets are the Sun and Moon, as well as Mars, Venus, and Mercury. And the one that really gets into the precise conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, which is rare, by the way, to get those two rulers of the sign of Pisces together in conjunction. It's once every, I don't know, 150 years, something like that, about that. So it's rare to get that. And we can see this in our lifetime, which is awesome. And at that very moment, the personal planet that get in touch, that in conjunction with that conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, is Venus. And that tells us, well, the teaching, we have to love it. It's not only about respecting the rules or knowing everything, knowing all the sacred scriptures by heart and being able to tell them and read them and all this. It's not only about that. It's about love. We have to love those teaching, and we'll discover new, interpretation, new ways of understanding those teachings. So that's a really important point, and this is actually very sweet, to love that type of great knowledge, teaching that has been given to us. And of course, many people know that already. But now, astrology, so the planets, are actually sending this message to us very loudly. Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, both rulers of Pisces together, that's super rare. And then Venus comes and says, yes, we have to love this. And on top of that, we have all those sextiles right now with that new moon of April 30. And those sextiles, again, are sweet. And they come from earth signs for most of them. Mercury is an exception. But most of them come from earth signs, Capricorn and Taurus. And that means, yes, there's a real support from Earth for that possibility that, yes, we can walk that spiritual path. And now, all this is very sweet. All this is kind of a dream. And we humans are usually thinking, this is not true. There's war happening. My life is a mess, or a nightmare even for some people. They think like this. And that's what they see, because their life is hard right now. It's difficult. There's hard time for them. And they'll think, well, Yann, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Those sextiles, that conjunction, what are you dreaming about? You're not on the right interpretation. Well, to that, I'd say, think a little bit about, I'm not Catholic or something, but sometimes I like to talk about Jesus because I know, I think it's important. There's some really good knowledge behind all this and some precious lessons to pick up. So for example, when Jesus has been crucified, there was a vote happening. And we almost all voted Barabbas, right? We didn't choose to spare Jesus. We choose to spare Barabbas, right? So remember that and that story? Just before Jesus has been crucified, there was a vote. One of them would be spared. And for us humans at the time, we thought, oh, well, no problem. Yeah, we can spare Barabbas, that criminal, political criminal, no problem. And Jesus, yeah, he can be crucified. Can you imagine? This is amazing. And at that time, of course, the sky, like the planets and everything, was giving us tons of gifts like those, was filling us, humanity, with great gifts like those sextiles, that conjunction of Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune. And we thought, well, we don't notice it really. Our life is difficult. We're having a hard time just to eat and survive. We don't notice that. And that person that Jesus claiming that, oh, he's what, the Son of God or something, he's probably, fake, or, it's probably not right. Because if he would be, he would actually free us, right? A real Son of God could actually free us. Same things for those sextiles. The energies are there. It's really harmonious. But then we think about war. People make war. There's lots of different problems in humanity, but they are, right now, those really, really precious aspects that are extremely generous, that are helping, supporting us in a really good way. And they are acting. And most of us won't even notice. That's why I'm talking about it straight like this. I usually don't do that, saying, oh, there's a great spiritual energy coming. I don't do that all the time. I know it's my first video in English, but it's not my usual way of talking about stars. It's just very special that right now there's that great conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces that happened just around Easter. It's springtime, and all this tells us what? Springtime is, yes, the new life is coming. You look around yourself in nature, you'll see it's filled with life. And Easter is about resurrection. So yes, that higher level of life is possible. Because with the resurrection, well, Jesus had access to a higher vibration of life. His body was not the same physical body. It was a higher vibration body. So yes, it is possible. And all the energies are pushing that road, and it's leading us to receive something really precious, really harmonious, something really nice and sweet. And most of us will say, what? Will say, I don't agree. This is not sweet for me. My life is not comfortable. Some people will say, well, you know what's happening, Russia, Ukraine. I don't know, I'm making the video right now, but things will evolve till the moment you'll listen to that video. But let's say that keep going. And some person will say, well, my husband died at war. How do you want me to see those sextiles and that conjunction? Why do you talk about that? Why are you talking about something so beautiful, so poetic, so spiritual also? Well, because it's there. And that's the work in astrology. We have to name what is there. We don't have to please the public. What is happening. This is not the idea. We have to tell exactly, well, the energies right now, you know what? There's great gifts pouring on us. And it's wonderful. But remember, when there are those great gifts, what do we do as humanity? Because we have still our problems. We have a hard time just surviving for some people. So of course, can we see them? Well, that's why I'm naming them. So that everybody know that right now we do have access to really great help. And that energy of Easter this year is way stronger than the usual. Because of that great conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune, extremely spiritual, and all is about, yes, it's possible on Earth to live a really beautiful life. And on top of that, let's have a look at Mercury in Gemini a little bit. So Mercury is very special this time in that new moon of April 30. What is so special about Mercury? Well, he does sextiles like all the rest, but he's not in the Earth sign. He's in the Gemini sign because it's just at the beginning of it. And in Pisces, there's some planets at the very end of Pisces. So the 60-degree does work with a few degrees of orb, but still, it works. So there is a sextile. But he's in Gemini. And that is a sign of some sort. And Gemini, in the signs that represent spring, where the sun is going through during springtime, well, from the equinox of spring till the solstice of summer, well, the sun is going through Aries first, then Taurus, then Gemini. And we know that in Aries, Mars is ruling, Sun is exalted. In Taurus, Venus is ruling, Moon is exalted. And in Gemini, well, Mercury is ruling. There's no exalted planet there. So we see two masculine, fatherly planets. Well, not that fatherly, but very masculine. So yes, they are fatherly in that case. So Mars and Sun. In Taurus, Venus and Moon. And then the child, Mercury, in Gemini. So Gemini represents that child, and Mercury as well. So Mercury that just put a foot, because it's 0 degree, it just entered barely entered the sign of Gemini. It's that energy of, yes, there's a child that says, I'm going for it. Yes, there's a spiritual teaching for the age of Aquarius. I'm saying yes. I've been told so. Great masters, angels, whatever, guides told me so. I say yes, and I come on earth exactly for that. Some people will say, really? You want to go on earth now? There's war, there's pollution, there's everything, nothing is going well. There's problems all over the place. That Mercury, that child, says yes. And he says, I'm going to live that special life that is promised. I'm going for it. And even though there are problems all around, I know that there's a path. Because there always have been problems. This is not new for humanity. So that Mercury says, yes, I do it. Because he dares to go in that Gemini sign. And that shows us in the interpretation, we see it, how it stands out in that chart of the new moon of April 30. And we see how that child says, yes, I choose it. I go for it. And I will live that special life. Because yes, it's possible, right? It's springtime, it's Easter, there's that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces. Venus is joining the conjunction. So yes, I love that possibility. I love the fact that it is possible to live a life with a higher vibration. With a higher level of vibration, it is possible. That's what that Mercury shows us. So for the ones that do not believe or think, oh, life is not good, life is not harmonious, it's not a good time for humanity, it's the end of the world is approaching or whatever, well, there's still a child that says yes. So for the babies that will be born that day, wonderful. We'll have great support from them eventually as they grow up. But then for all of us, most of us, though, all the ones that will be listening to that video, well, of course, yes. It is possible. It's possible for ourselves. We have that child inside ourselves that says, I want it, and I dare living it. I dare saying, yes, a life with a higher level of vibration. My whole life, it is possible to change it. I don't have to be stuck in the usual stuff that happens, the heavy stuff that happens to humanity right now. I don't have to live on that level of vibration. There's something else that is proposed. There's a full spiritual teaching that is out there in the air. We just have to breathe it in, basically. It's all there, all drowned up. And we only have to receive it. So that's Mercury. That's his role. It is there. It's showing so clear. The stars are talking. Now, are we able to see it? It's a little bit like people that do not believe in God or the source, or I don't know, some type of intelligence that is really orchestrating the whole thing, the whole life. For some people, and maybe some of you that are listening do not believe in God, and that's okay. And it's not about, do we call it God or something else? That I don't care. The thing is, that source of intelligence of life, do we believe that exists? For some people that do not believe, well, it doesn't exist. And for them, it doesn't. And they're even able to prove it scientifically. Wow, wonderful. Quite impressive. For them, it doesn't exist. So it's not there. And they live a life without it. Same thing for those sextiles and that conjunctions. Those great blessings that are coming to us right now. If we don't look at them, we live without them. And they won't exist. For a person for which God exists, well, God does exist. And of course, the person will be praying, he will have some kind of relationship with God and everything. Everything will be set up and it's all working. And then God does exist. And for the person that do not believe, of course he lives a life without God. And for that person, God does not exist. In his existence, it's just like if it wouldn't. Because he doesn't give it a place in his life. Same thing goes for those sextiles and that conjunctions. So you see a little bit how precious it is to be aware of what is happening in the sky, in astrology interpretations. It's really precious So I hope, as a first English video of astrology, I hope you appreciated it. If you do, please share. It's a brand new channel, so please share it as widely as you can, so some visibility will build up and it will be more encouraging to do more and more and more. I usually do every new moon and full moon. I do a video for each one of them, and that's what I'm proposing to do on that channel, to keep it up, keep the rhythm, and give you really special interpretation from my own point of view on astrology. I think that will be a really great adventure for many of us. Hope will be many, tuning together on that level of interpretation of astrology. Hope you liked it, and please share abundantly, comment, post some comments. I do answer all comments, so feel free to post your comments there. I'll answer them for sure. So thank you very much for watching, and see you another time very soon, in about 2 weeks, for another astrology video.